You can be a millionaire in all 6 aspects of health. That's right, it's not just about a big bank account. Every week, we share tips to improve your physical, your intellectual, social, spiritual, financial, and your mental health. Today, we are focusing on how to improve your mental health with self compassion. If you have never seen Millionaires Are Made, this is the show built on the fundamental beliefs that every person you meet knows something you don't, and there's something we learn from everyone in this big, beautiful world. We are on a mission here to teach the world how to grow into the healthiest, happiest millionaires in all 6 aspects of life. So today we went out and got 3 awesome guests to give you 3 awesome tips on how to improve your mental health with self-compassion. In the spirit of authenticity, to remove as much bias as possible, we do not talk about tips or advice beforehand. So what you're about to hear is the first time we're going to hear it as well. And I can't wait to learn what we've got in store. Audience, this is an interactive show. Please feel free to comment and ask questions. We love hearing from you, and we will read them out loud. Let's do a fan follower shout out real quick on Facebook on Jolly Agoal. Wow, thank you for following us. I am terrible pronouncing your name. Instagram, Megan Ferguson, you rock. TikTok, Danny Cadet, and on YouTube, Text Messenger. Thank you guys so much. If you want to be shouted out, just follow us. It's that easy. And if you want to be a guest on our show, we're dropping a link right now. Check it out. We're always looking for new guests, and we know you have something that you can share with the world. So sign up. It's not that hard. Come beyond, share your knowledge, and let's grow the world. If you are in life right now and something's struggling, maybe financially, maybe spiritually, you're feeling lost, or maybe physically you're not so happy, let us know. We're always looking for topic ideas, and we will go out and find 3 awesome guests to go teach you 3 awesome tips on that topic. And if you like what we do, always feel free to help us subscribe, share, like, comment, whatever you're doing, whatever media you're watching us. Very helpful. Thank you so much. As part of our big goal to help people grow, I do offer one-on-one free coaching. We're dropping that right now, a little growth consultation, one-on-one me. I love helping and talking and meeting and all that fun stuff. Feel free to sign up. What do we got? Next up is our merchandise. We officially do have Millionaires Are Made merch, so feel free to grab some of that. It will be awesome. Link is being dropped right now. And this show is brought to you by some awesome sponsors. We've got Craig Zukowski, who's an amazing human behaviorist and a mentor who helps entrepreneurs discover their true identity, purpose, and achieve growth in business and life, which is the most important part. Many entrepreneurs get caught up in just that business side. Our next sponsor is awesome. Drowning in debt. Sarah Jones was stuck in a failing marriage. Despite earning more than ever, she knew she had to change something. So she went into a popular debt program, and it actually made things worse. Then she stopped, revamped, studied, learned, and now carved her own path to financial healing and relationship repair. Her and her husband tour the U.S. in a giant RV, helping couples, individuals, and small businesses build healthy money habits and bring joy back to managing finances. Check out Sarah right now. Next sponsor is Veronica Herrera, who is a life coach and the host of the Thrive, Don't Survive podcast, empowers others with emotional regulation tools to transform challenges into a thriving success. And our final sponsor for this episode is Kim Grashek, a 2-time international best-selling author and speaker, helping CEOs maximize focus, energy, and health with over 30 years of industry expertise. She is amazing. And that is it. Let's go do this. Our first guest here is Jeremy. We're going to bring him out in just a second and hear what he's got to say. Jeremy, who are you?
Good morning, Austin. How are you doing, sir? Answer the question real quick is I'm a men's consultant and basically strategist, mentor, multi-time best-selling author, kung fu master, soldier, factory worker, software test quality engineer, all kinds of nerd, everything. And really what I am is I'm a lover of life and taking big complex stuff, make it simple, and helping men master the 3 relationships that matter: the life, love, and business.
Life, love, and business. 3 relationships that matter. All right. Well, hey, Jeremy, I got an important question for you. Ooh,
Absolutely.
this one. Oh, this is a good one for you. Jeremy, if I wanted to improve my mental health with self compassion, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
5 words. Be your own best friend.
Ooh, that's good. Tell us how that works.
Yeah, so think about, you have a friend, a buddy that's struggling and they're overwhelmed and overloaded and they're like, I'm the dumbest piece of crap and nobody loves me and I'm so this and that, and they're just piling all this garbage on themselves, and it's like you can see the beauty and the brilliance inside them, and you're like, nah, dude, you're overwhelmed at the moment, but here's what you got to remember: this and this and this about yourself, and yeah, you've had hardship before, but you've accomplished, and you will do all this amazing stuff to expand your friend's mindset, reality. Whatever we focus on, right, it expands, and right or wrong, either one's available. But if you're looking on this side, you can't see everything over here, and if you're looking over there, you can't see the stuff over here. So when your friend is in that place and they're dogpiling on themselves, you'll pull them out. But when you are dogpiling on yourself, it's hard to give yourself that compassion, that room to breathe. And so what I want you to remember is, like, be your own best friend. Think of it like this. If you're full up to here with your own garbage, that means there's only this much room to breathe and to operate. If you can be completely empty of yourself, good freaking luck. That's awesome. But then sometimes you don't know where you stand. So just be halfway empty, just down to about your belt, because then you're halfway empty. You still have a place to stand, but you have room to breathe. And so it's that, if I could be my own best friend, like, what advice would I give myself? What could I remind myself of? And those questions, the what could I remind myself, presupposes you've got some good stuff in there, which you probably do, but you're probably deleting it. So, dude, breathe. It's cool. Be your own best friend. How do you make that happen?
That's awesome. One thing I love to say is you need to be a better friend with your future self.
Nice.
Yeah, that's one of
Yeah,
my
yeah. Well, I
favorites.
have to remind people, like, we're the dumbest now we will ever be 10 years later. I just haven't
Hopefully.
figured out how to get to the 10 years today. I got to go through the 10 years. Dang it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. We are the dumbest we will ever be right now, unless you really do
Yeah.
something wrong.
That's true. That's true.
Unless you physically lose knowledge and lose knowledge. Awesome, Jeremy. Well,
Head
tell
trauma.
us, where on your life journey did you learn this tip?
I actually got this from the years that I was working in the sandpaper factory, and it was the first 3 months of doing Kung Fu. My teacher, Master Ming, then Grandmaster now, we were at a social event for his teacher, one of them, and he heard me say something about myself to myself out loud that was derogatory. And he stopped what he was doing, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, "Don't talk to yourself like that." And he held it for a second. And then he went back to doing what he was doing. And I'm sure my parents had said something along the same lines multiple times, but the way he said it, who he was to me in my life at that time, like, it hit me. And so when I went back to, like, my next day at work in the sandpaper factory, I'm doing the machine and pressing sandpaper, a lot of time to think. And I started noticing just how big of a jerk I was to myself. And my self talk was so destructive and so just tearing myself down all the time. And so I started, like, dude, breathe. Is it really that bad? And I started asking myself these questions as if I was my own best friend. It's like I started asking myself, is it really that bad, or are you just making it worse maybe? And so I had another year and a half in the factory, unraveled all of it. And it really was just taking on that other persona of somebody else talking inside my own head, and it allowed me to start having these dialogues, because I could argue with myself, and then I could, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's fair. But what about this? Shut up, you. Wait. No, that's a good idea. Damn, why didn't I think of that? Well, I think you did, because you're talking to yourself inside your own head. Oh yeah, I am. And that was the nice part about being in the factory, is nobody could hear or see the conversations I'm having, as long as I'm productive on the floor. So my body's busy, my mind and my heart were free to be all different other kind of places. And it was massively important. And then the Kung Fu stuff also, getting better strategies and mindset stuff as well.
Jeremy, I've heard that there's people that don't have an inner voice. Have you heard
hmm
that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's part of my life as a hypnotherapist. Everyone's internal model of the world is unique. That's like neurodiversity, it's like all of us are neurodiverse. There's not one person that is the standard against which all the rest of us are judged.
Okay,
We have
true.
6 input systems, right? See, hear, feel, think, taste, touch. And then are you associated? Are you disassociated? Some people don't have that dialogue, but they see pictures or they see words or they
Wow.
have feelings or sensations or there's a taste to their thoughts. Like everybody's jumbly, wibbly wobbly inside, but we have these 6 inputs and
Wibbly
outputs.
wobblies.
It's a
Awesome.
technical
All
term.
right, Jeremy. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next guest, Regina. Great, great tips. Be your own best friend and be a better best friend to your future self. Love it. All right, let's move on. Regina's coming on. Hey, Regina, who are you? I think you're muted.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. So, hey, Austin, I'm doing great. And I see you are somewhere on an island and beautiful sun. So, you probably also doing awesome.
I'm
And
I'm I'm
yeah,
loving it.
so, sorry?
Oh, I love it. I get to do this show and hang out and meet awesome people all over the world and let them share their voice. It's a great time. It's a great time. But tell
Living the
who
good
are you,
life.
Regina?
Yeah, so I'm Regina Huber. I'm a freedom and a leadership coach, speaker, host of the Rise to Lead podcast, and author of a few books. My newest one being Living My Freaking Amazing Life, which is what I'm seeing you do. I'm the CEO of Transform Your Performance, where I guide leaders to become thriving leaders with thriving teams while living that life too. And my background is very eclectic and adventurous. I've collected my current level of wisdom. I hope I have some to share today on 5 continents. And that's also how I speak 5.5 languages. And I work with my clients in 4 languages. And very importantly, I love to dance.
What's your half language?
Italian. I understand it quite well, but I don't really speak it that much.
Oh, I thought maybe you only spoke the words that like started with A through K, but you couldn't say any of those.
Could have been, could have been.
All right, Regina, I've got a very important question for you. If I wanted to improve my mental health with self-compassion, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
Feel your emotions to transmute them.
Ooh, tell us more about that.
Yeah. So what's really important for us to do is let ourselves feel our suppressed emotions. And we can do that while belly breathing and smiling, which will have the effect of transmuting them. So in my opinion, that's one of the most compassionate things you can do for yourself. Not to fight your emotions, not to judge them, not to get rid of them, but to welcome them in just as they are and as they are wanting to come through. And this allows the emotion to eventually transmute or dissolve. And this is, again, not about fixing, and it's not about anything being wrong about you, but it's about allowing. When there is no judgment, when we allow our emotions in, then self-forgiveness is sort of a byproduct of that too, and it becomes easier. And
I like. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I just wanted to maybe share how you can do that best. Is that okay?
Absolutely, please share.
Absolutely. So yes, find a quiet space ideally, and then sit up with a straight spine, but relaxed, softened shoulders. Or you could also lie down flat on your back and start breathing deeply. So you inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth slowly, and you take full belly breaths. So all the way into your belly. And now bring your attention to any emotion that's most present in this moment. Usually, when we want to dissolve an emotion, that is about sadness, anger, or fear. So welcome that in and just breathe and allow. No story, no resistance. Just allow it to come. And you will notice that the energy will start to shift. And the emotion, which is really energy in motion, that's what the word means, will be transmuted eventually. And anything that seems to be blocking you is really just energy. What does that mean? You can move that energy and shift it until it dissolves.
All right, that is fascinating. What a great tip, Regina. Where on your life journey did you learn this tip?
Well, for many years, Austin, I was carrying around a lot of heavy sadness, and I didn't really know where it was coming from. I couldn't explain it. I had released a ton of limiting beliefs. I had done deep mindset work and really been working a lot on, on everything that we call our inner self. But this very persistent emotion still remained, and I didn't know what to do with it. So eventually I learned how to transmute it layer by layer. And I did this by welcoming it with belly breathing, with maybe even also a soft smile on your face. That helps too. As I said initially, breathe and smile. And then by allowing the undigested emotion to be expressed, to come through and eventually to dissolve. And I learned this from Brian Ridgway. His work is called Level 5. And I sometimes also combine it with the Sedona method, which some of our viewers might be familiar with, which helps release resistance. So sometimes that also helps in addition. And it really changed everything for me. Allowing myself to feel my emotions is literally one of the most powerful forms of self-compassion I know, and from my own experience. And that also allows me to have an even more freaking amazing life in greater freedom, with greater inner power and more peace, and really also feeling more alive.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Regina. We'll move on to our next guest, and then we will bring you out for the round robin and hear more insightfulness from you. Thank you, Regina. Next up, we have Luke. Luke, tell us, who are you?
Yeah, hey, my name is Luke Harlan, and I'm someone who absolutely believes there's greatness inside all of us, inside everyone. And professionally, as a transformational mindset coach, I help those people overcome those limiting beliefs, those fears, those self-made obstacles that are really holding us back from becoming and bringing out our best selves to reach our goals. And I do that through a proven coaching framework, and I also lead a free mindset mastery group on school.
Awesome. Very cool. All right, Luke, I got an important question for you.
All right.
If I wanted to improve my mental health with self-compassion, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
Always speak kindly about yourself to yourself. And
That's
the reason
easier
why I
said
say
than
that,
done.
easier said than done, but the reason behind it is we are our own worst critics. And when we repeat those negative statements, which we're all prone to do, I'm not good at, or I always do this, we're reinforcing a limiting belief that is actually influencing our decisions that we all make. And our identities, our lives are really the sum of those actions that we take from those decisions that we make based on those beliefs. And not only that, is many people don't realize there's a part of our brain called the RAS, or reticulating activating system, which is really acts like a thought GPS. Whatever we tell it to do, either subconsciously or consciously, it does. So if we talk negatively, we're actually instructing our brain to look for supporting evidence of that negative statement, and to ignore anything positive. So we literally put ourselves in a negative feedback loop, believing it, to be true. So as Jeremy shared earlier, becoming our own best friend with positive self-talk is extremely critical.
Be your own best friend. Yeah, the RES. That's fascinating. You brought that out. I like it. Luke, tell us where in your life journey you learned this advice.
Sure, I probably heard it 1,000 times. I think Regina said something, you hear these things all the time, but I never really understood it until years ago. I was kind of at rock bottom. I was post-divorce. I gained a bunch of weight, and I was given the opportunity as a blood and bone marrow donor to donate to a critically ill leukemia patient. And in that moment, when I was on the hospital bed about to donate, and I took the self-awareness and I looked at myself, and I realized there was someone 1,000 miles away who had leukemia and cancer, and no fault of their own. But here I was, kind of phoning in my life to my kids, to my business, and my health, and it was all on me. I chose to do this from the decisions I had made. And in that moment of just kind of sadness and looking in the mirror and coming to Jesus, I realized that if I made decisions to put me there, I could make decisions to get me out of this. But I just didn't know how. So when I dropped my excuses and my ego and blaming everyone but me, and realized that the only constant in my life was me, that's when I went down the rabbit hole and learned why and how we think and how our minds work, and that exploration, and how important positive self-talk was to change my behavior, my attitude, and the outcomes to be in alignment with my goals. And it started with rewiring and replacing my limiting or negative beliefs about myself. And that's why self-talk was such an integral part of that I finally understood.
I love it. Luke, that's huge. All right, you ready to bring everyone out and have a nice chat? I think this
Always.
is going to be this is going to be a good one. All right, let's bring everyone out. Let's get Jeremy out here and Regina. Audience, this is a great time for you to ask questions of our guests or comments, if you will. Jeremy, do you quickly want to refresh what your tip was?
Yeah, my tip was simple. Be your own best friend.
Be your own best friend. Regina, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think, if we cannot be our own best friend, then we cannot be anyone's best friend, actually, at least not in a way that is mutually beneficial. It's like the principle, you got to love yourself to love somebody else, It's sort of similar to me in that way.
Yeah, it's hard to give what you don't have. And,
Right.
Yeah,
so it's like,
absolutely.
give me $1 million. Well, I have $1 million. Oh, okay.
Right.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
So give love. Well, I don't have it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it feels like. Never touched it, tasted, smelled it. I have no clue.
You
Okay.
can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
Exactly.
Also, I think, the whole thing about receiving and giving, where does receiving end and giving start? Where does giving end and receiving start? Maybe it's just the same thing locked together. And I think
Right.
the
Well,
same principle applies to what you're saying, Jeremy.
Yeah. Well, when you're giving something to someone else, you get to receive in the give, right? There's a phrase is what you keep inside dies with you. What you give, you get to keep. Because if I have this lovely thing I want to say to someone and I never tell them, then I might as well have never said it. I never said it. It never existed. But if I tell them in the process of giving them this compliment or this value or this thing, in giving it, you get to experience the thing. So it's like when we give it away, we actually get to keep the experience. But when we keep it back and, well, I'm not sure and I'm going to protect and I'm going to keep, and it's like, well, then you're going to die with that and you're never going to get the full expression.
Right. And don't we always say we are all one anyway? So where does it go?
It's fascinating you brought that up, Jeremy. Last week we had an episode on loneliness.
If you like yourself and you're your own best friend, you're never lonely, right? You can be alone, but doesn't mean you have to be lonely. That's a subjective feeling state.
Well, that's the happiness of the internal, is that we have to be good with ourselves and we create our own happiness. It's not an external acquisition, but we're all trained, from the get-go to always obtain and acquire externally. To fulfill something that's missing that we have to put in ourselves. And that's the endless chase that will never be fulfilled by.
Yeah. What you could say is happiness is a decision. Like once you notice what could allow me to be happy in this moment, you just decide you're happy and all of a sudden you start to feel happier.
Well, it's
and oftentimes we do the opposite. We think when I have this and that, I will be happy. When I experience this and that, I will be happy. And that's how we often also perpetuate what we actually do not desire.
Well, that's the reverse paradigm of have, do, be. I have to have this to become that person, when it's actually reversed. We have to become that, do the actions that make it true to then have the things that we want. And it starts with us. Like, that's why we have to believe it to be true before it is. And that's the rewiring of our brains. And that's becoming, as Jeremy said, our best friend. If we can't fill our own cup, then how do we go out and then impart it to the world, which then just reinforces what Regina said. It's that cycle. And then that's how we build that positive momentum, or as opposed to shutting it down and retreating. And then we become small and disconnected from it.
Yeah. Look, I just literally made a YouTube video this week, a short YouTube video on We Do Have. So,
well, that's what I love about this, is that when you hear things over and over from different people, it just reinforces, because what is true is true.
So awesome. I had somebody described, they said most people are walking around with an umbilical cord in their hand looking for a place to plug it in. And it's because they don't have, you talk about self-acceptance or self-compassion, they don't have acceptance of themselves in their own sense. Like I don't like me, I don't accept me, so if I find somebody else that can like me, then I must be likable. And it's like you're living at effect, and so then you're just wired for misery and suffering without ever really realizing it's just a story.
Well, it's the validation that you seek that you have to give yourself. And that's one of those things that most people, like a lot of my coaching clients and things like that, you just have to give them permission. Like they have to get the permission to love themselves, the permission to be okay with failing forward, from learning from the lesson that we don't start out perfect. And we create these expectations that are born from other people, and we try to live up, and then we're not living our lives. We're living their lives with their expectations. At the end of the day, they don't really care. So we have to make those choices. But a lot of times we got to give ourselves permission, because most everyone grew up in a society where to escalate, to move forward, we were waiting on someone else to confer that graduation from school to life to business to the next level. And you have to take ownership of that at some point. And that's always a difficult passage. And when you do, that's where your freedom begins.
Yeah. That's an implicit appeal to authority, which power structures need and want.
Mm-hmm.
And when you decide, I don't need permission to just be myself. I can just be myself. And it's like, you look at the more quote unquote successful people in life, when they're like seriously successful inside themselves, they don't dress to impress anybody else. They don't care, right? Mark Cuban was at an event, but people didn't know who he was. And he's in the back in jeans and a schlubby t-shirt.
Sure.
And people are kind of ignoring him, not realizing he's the richest man in the room. But it's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I don't need to impress anyone. I'm going to move the way I'm going to move. And it's like, the more we can create that inside ourselves and create that around us, it's like you being the most authentic you serves the highest good for everyone, the same way everyone else being their highest sense of self.
Sure.
Like, you're the only you ever in the history of humanity, from the dawn of time to the end of creation. No pressure, but go be that. And it's like,
authenticity people don't realize is that your uniqueness. There are a million people, 1,000 people that do what any of us do, as far as from a occupational, professional standpoint. But what makes it unique? It may not be the methodology or the outcome. It's who we are individually and our experience that we bring to it. So the only integral linchpin that we have to stand out is just being ourselves, nothing else, because we're going to attract those. And it's so many people, like, you have friends in your life, you have associates, you have people who gravitate to who you are for who you are. There's no difference in any part of the world. You show up as you are, you're going to attract the right people. Unless you're trying to be an imposter, pretend you're someone else, then you're going to get disingenuous people and you won't have fortified relationships. You'll just be a chameleon and forever miserable.
Yeah, that's also why competition is such a useless game in the end. We compete constantly, and we put so much energy and time into it instead of really focusing on our uniqueness and other people's uniqueness also, because that's the other part of it, right? So how can we complement, for example, a team with other people's uniqueness? And I want to go back also to that need for approval that we sometimes have, and that's what oftentimes makes it really hard to break free from those societal expectations, from our parents' expectations, our friends' expectations. And instead, we suppress our own dreams. So we really forget about our own dreams because we think that the approval is more important than the dream. And once we become aware that actually our dream does matter, that's when we can step out of this paradigm.
We create our own mindset prison, and we don't realize we have the key to it the entire time. And back to what you're saying about competition, is that's a scarcity mentality. And when you choose to have the infinite pie mentality, there's always room for one more, because we are unique and we're going to attract the right people. Because it may be the same information, but I might want to hear it from a male or a female or a person of color, or for someone who resonates with me, old or younger. And I won't hear it. I might listen to it, and I've done this before with mentors. I've listened to the same information for years, but I didn't hear it until I connected with that right person who I align with, and I open myself up to the information. And that is something which makes it a wonderful thing. There's always room for one more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
One of the things I saw a long time ago in actually a fortune cookie, it was, expect nothing, you'll never be disappointed. Because whatever happens, good, bad, or sideways, is a surprise. And so, have boundaries, have standards, sure. Have congruence, absolutely. But expectation usually just sets yourself up for rules conflict, sets yourself up for pain and misery. So it's like, expect nothing, and it's like, oh, this is amazing. So I'm so surprised. And it's a genuine surprisal, because I didn't have anything coming into this.
Yeah, you let go of the attachment, really. So the attachment is what trips us up oftentimes, right? Isn't it? We get so attached to a certain outcome that nothing else is valuable. And then we get so disappointed when it doesn't happen. So sometimes it's a really good idea to remove that attachment, to, yes, be open for the possibility, but not attached to it. And I think that also contributes to really being able to have that and live that freaking amazing life that I like to talk about, because it makes it lighter. It doesn't feel so forced.
Well, let's marry the process, not the outcome, because the outcome can change and the growth happens in the process. And if you love the process of you becoming the person that can, the outcome often changes. It's like people get motivated for the Ferrari or like, you know, the exotic sports car. And when they become the person that can afford it or do those things, that material good is irrelevant because they've changed and they're looking for something more that's deeper. But that's not to discount the motivation. Some people excel because they have a chip on their shoulder and they want to say, I want to tell those people who said I couldn't do it. But by the time they get to that level, by putting in the work and, you know, learning the discipline and perseverance and consistency, they become the person that doesn't need the approval or even to talk to that person in the beginning. So give yourself permission to get started, but realize that you'll grow out from the outcome that you originally intended. And that's something that, back to the thing is, it's like Eckhart Tolle, like everything just is. We subjectively choose to put it in a box of good or bad, or positive or negative. And that's the world that we then create through our own lens of bias. So we can control that. The paradigm shift is the world happening to us, being a victim for us. Hey, we're the victor, or that next escalation, it's happening because of us, because we've asserted a certain mindset or a framework on how we're going to live our lives. And that's the freedom of choice of how we, instead of emotionally react to it, we intelligently respond according to the goals that we set for ourselves.
Right. I mean, we are the consciousness who's creating it all. So how is this situation for me is always a great question to ask, right? Even if we don't like it necessarily at first sight, how is this for me? There's always a for me in everything. And when we use less judgment about a situation and just see it as a situation or an experience, that's what you just said, Luke, then it automatically actually becomes a little lighter already.
100%.
All right, guys, that's a good
made up. But I like the question up here: is self-compassion making people emotionally weak or overly sensitive in today's society?
Hold on, Jeremy. We're gonna ask that right now.
Yeah. Well, I saw that come through, and I'm like, oh. But
you guys are talking so much, I can't get in to get a new question.
Well, I think the emotionally weak, like that's a subjective thing. Like right now, I'm training for a long distance thing, and I've lost 2 toenails. So does that make me strong or weak, or does that make me smart, or does that make me stupid? I don't know, but I know that my shoes were tied a little bit such a way, and I lost 2 toenails so far. I don't know what that meaning is, other than I just, there's toenails growing underneath them, so it's fine. But is that weak? Is that strong? Is that smart? Is that stupid? I don't care.
Yeah,
I also think, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, I just wanted to also make a distinction between self-compassion and self-pity, because sometimes we mix those up. So yeah, you can of course feel sorry for yourself when you hurt yourself for a moment, right? Like in the case of Jeremy with his toenails, but then that is a temporary thing, and you can let go of it again. Yes, it hurts. We don't want to negate that, but then there's a moment when you let it go and you can do something about it potentially. So we oftentimes also actually mix up emotional with weak, and emotional is not weak. That's actually one of the reasons why we now need, in my opinion, it's such a good thing to feel our emotions, because those emotions are there. They're already stuck in you because earlier in your life you did actually not express them, and that does not make you stronger or more powerful in any way. Quite the opposite. It can actually keep you stuck.
If I interject one quick thing, is what comes to mind a lot of times, something I heard Gary Vee talk about, which is kind candor. So if you give yourself the compassion to realize the space and grace to learn and grow, and realize that it's going to take time and you're going to get knocked down, and give yourself permission to grow and not be subjugated to your own fears of failure or fear of judgment, but also have the candor, have that brutal honesty with yourself to realize when you're in denial or you're trying to rationalize something, to keep yourself safe in the comfort zone. And I think we have to balance that. I think, Jeremy nailed it. It's completely subjective what we consider weak. It's like what we consider successful. We're defining the rules of our lives or allowing others to. So self-compassion is the beginning of accepting who you are, but it's not against aspiration. We can aspire to be better, but we have to give ourselves a little bit of a hug along the way, as well as a stick and a carrot, because we want to keep motivated and condition ourselves. I set it up, but I think you get the point. That's that kind candor to ourselves, which embraces self-compassion with the reality of our goals.
I find it's a lot of both and rather than either or, because making, is self-compassion making people emotionally weak? Well, to suppress all of your emotions and then to abuse other people or abuse yourself through alcohol, drugs, porn, or violence, is that strength? Well, no, it eats itself over time. So that's probably not a great idea. And if somebody is overly sensitive, it's like, according to whose standard? And what does that mean? Because part of my life, I was a soldier. Cool. What's sensitive in a soldier situation? But then also part of my life, I'm a hypnotherapist. So I need to be sensitive, meaning sensing where the person I'm working with is. Because if I know their background is military, I can probably push them a little harder, numbnut, and we can go a little high speed, low drag. But if I'm dealing with a 9-year-old kid who lost his mom when he was 4, I can't use the same modalities. So it's like, is that I got to be sensing of where the person I'm working with is. The more bandwidth I have, the more flexibility I have, the more ability to build bridges. So it's like, but is it arresting someone? Is it sticking? Is someone getting stuck? Are they using their emotions as an excuse to not take accountability, responsibility, move their lives forward? Or are they just sitting navel gazing and picking the belly button lint out and doing nothing and anything you try to suggest? Because I had a 9-year-old that told me, I can't focus because I have a diagnosis. And it's like, cool, your life is over, dude. Right? It was a girl, but it's like, you now know anytime anyone tries to teach her any level of discipline, any level of accountability, any level of anything, she has an escape button, which is, I have a diagnosis, and she shuts down the conversation. I ran into her 2 years later doing a school program, and her teacher was like, couldn't get anything out of this kid because, I have a diagnosis. I can't do that. My brain doesn't work like that. And it's like, the fact that you're aware that you can throw that up as a defense.
If you're self-aware, then you're choosing the lesser of obligation and responsibility.
The fact you're aware to game it.
For me, that's not about self-compassion. That's about giving up responsibility, which is to me, that's totally different. Okay. I think this girl might benefit a lot from self-compassion, but not from just becoming a victim, which is giving up her responsibility, which is her ability to respond.
Yeah, but she's won. She doesn't have to be. I don't have to have any standard. I've won.
Right.
It's like, crap. We got to change the game, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys, we're going to interject right there. It is now time for our daily challenge to come up with. We need to come up with a task or series of tasks that takes less than 5 minutes a day, costs $0, is available to everyone in the world, that helps us improve our mental health with self-compassion. What are your thoughts?
I got mine.
So do I. So
yeah, I got one too.
All right, Jeremy, you can go first because you rose your hand first.
If I was my own best friend, what could I say to validate or encourage myself on the next step?
Okay, so think about what your best friend would say in times of stress. When stress.
Yeah, the key is what, not why. Like what's and hows, but what? What could I say?
Ask yourself what. I'm gonna say what your best friend would say. Just put them in your place. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. Good rework. All
right, Luke, what was yours?
If you want to change a behavior, you got to be mindful because self-awareness. If you don't observe it, you can't change it. So what I always teach is ask yourself a simple question before you're about to do what you're thinking or that next action, is what I'm about to do going to serve me and my goals? Period. It's like the rubber band on the wrist. Before I take that next, is what I'm prone to doing right now, the next thought in my head, is that going to serve me or hurt me? And then if you keep that, you'll start becoming more and more self-aware about the things that you do subconsciously that might be self-sabotaging you.
All right, Regina, what do you got?
I love what I call self-empowering what if questions. So those I use sometimes to say, for example, what if X situation, could be used for anything. What if this situation or challenge could become easier for me? What that does is my brain now starts looking for an answer and for a solution. My subconscious starts looking for it. I don't have to necessarily answer that question right away, but it makes the whole situation appear a little bit lighter already.
I love that. That tails into a question I hear a lot of times. What would have to be true for my life to change in this respect, to have a better relationship, better health, better business? What would have to be true? Because then it searches for those, those outcomes, those potential paths of, creativity to follow down versus what I'm trapped in thinking of the same recycled things that I believed I've tried or limiting myself with. What would have to be true?
Yeah. So questions oftentimes work better than affirmations for a lot of people because they don't sound as if they contradict your subconscious programming. And affirmations can sometimes work, but you have to really repeat them very consistently, very often, if you want that change to happen, especially if they do contradict your beliefs. So for me, questions have just always been more useful. So I really love questions.
Well, it dovetails into a growth mindset, which is learning. If I only have 10 Lego pieces in my head, I'm only going to come up with so many permutations. And if none of those permutations are going to solve my problem, I need more Legos, more information, more knowledge. So when I ask that question, I have to go out and learn and have that open growth mindset. And now I have 100 Legos. Well, now I have the potential for creating more passive opportunity that I didn't know before. And that one of those may lead to the solution that meets my goals.
Yeah. It's all about opening up possibilities, really.
But also the brain is wired to answer questions. Because do you still have a polka dot tree in your backyard? Your brain answers the question. Your brain doesn't question the question and go, there's no such thing as a polka dotted tree. Your brain answers the question first and then filters it and then processes it later. So when you have a kid that's melting down, hey, it's okay to be upset. Now's not the time to calm down. But if you were to calm down, how would you breathe? Or could you stand on one foot? And it's like, by asking questions, you hook the mind into yes, no, maybe, but it pushes back. And so, affirmations, sometimes you get into internal belief states and momentums because meat has momentums. So it's questions you can hook. What does it mean? It means I'm stupid. Okay, what else could it mean? I mean, you'll write down stupid, but what else could it mean? I have something to learn. Ooh, that's more interesting than stupid because I don't think anyone knows everything. Right?
Just you each get 30 seconds to answer this question. How can we teach self-compassion in schools or workplaces without sounding too soft or weak?
I got this one. Yeah, so here's the deal, guys. Everybody go ahead, stand up, shoulders back, nice and tall. Everyone repeat after me. Everyone say, I feel terrible. And you have the kids do
I feel terrible.
Okay, cool. Now, stand up nice and tall, shoulders back, head up, look at me in the eyes and say, I feel terrible. Okay, cool. Now, take your shoulders and round them. Put your chin inside the hole, look down at the floor, take a deep breath, let it out slow. Flap your hands like a dying fish, and then say, I feel wonderful. Okay, now shoulders back, head up one more time, nice and tall, and say, I feel wonderful. Which one of those three goes together the best? A, I feel terrible. B, I feel wonderful. Or C, I feel wonderful. Normally people will say C. And if they don't, that's a whole other sidebar. But this right here we call positive energy, when you feel warm, big, and happy inside. Negative energy, you feel small, sad, and cold inside. Which do you prefer? If you would like to feel warm, big, and happy, if you would like other people to help you feel warm, big, and happy, does it make sense? If I want to get it from them, then the easiest way to do it is I give it to them first. So if I make sure the people around me feel warm, big, and happy, I know they have it available to give it back to me. And that's what we call a win-win game. The only thing that will ever sustain your life is a win-win game. Any game where it's win, lose, win, or lose will fail given enough time, whether we're talking interpersonal dynamics, parenting, marriage, business, religion, geopolitics. It does not matter. So how do we get to a place where inside we feel warm, big, and happy? And we got to be real with ourselves, because if you're just sitting on your couch playing video games, eating a bunch of junk, living like a sack of crap, and you hear your parents struggling and stressed, is that going to make you feel warm, big, and happy when you had the power to help them? Or if you help mom and dad feel warm, big, and happy, now they have that available to give back to you. Isn't that an interesting experiment? And this was part of how I got 5-year-old kids to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, because they wanted to, not because I required it.
Sure.
And I did this on a daily basis in my Kung Fu school. And it's actually the only parenting book with a money back guarantee. Bam. So there you go.
All right. I'm going to defer to Jeremy because I think he encapsulated an incredible interactive lesson that ripples on. So I'm good.
Yep. All right, guys. We are officially out of time. Thank you all so much. We came up with a daily challenge and dropped some insight, but we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys to our guests for coming out, and thank you to our viewers so much for watching. I hope you learned a lot about self-compassion and your mental health. Man, there was a lot of knowledge. Our episode went super long. Got a sweet daily challenge when you're stressed, which is going to happen at least once a day. Ask yourself what your best friend would say. Also, questions to ask throughout the day. Is my next action going to serve my goals, or is it going to take away from them? And what if this challenge could be done easier? Watch your brain start to find the solution and